now. I'd like to call to order the Peabody Planning Board meeting agenda for Thursday, June 1st, 2023, 7 p.m., held at Wigan Auditorium. At this time, I'd like to suspend that meeting and enter into a public hearing. Notice is hereby given the Planning Board of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, June 1st, 2023, at 7 p.m. at Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Be it ordained by the City Council in the City of Peabody, the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody, entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011, amended through April 27, 2023, is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1, by amending Section 12.5, entitled Application and Site Plan Contents, to delete the language subparagraph A, the application fee in the amount of $100, and inserting in its place, therefore, an application fee referred to in Section 12.8 fee schedule. Section 2, by creating a new Section 12.18 entitled Fee Schedule as follows. An administrative fee for site plan is required for every site plan review application. The fee is $500 each. Site plan plus $50 for every 100,000 square feet. As proposed, the building envelope over 5,000 square feet. In no case shall the application fee exceed $10,000. Section 3, all ordinances and part of ordinances non-consistent herewith is hereby repealed. Section 4, the ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. Are you presenting?
Mr. Chair, Andrew Levin, Senior Planner with the Peabody Community Development and Planning Department. As many of you know, that late last year we started to work on amending our site plan application. It is currently $100 for a site plan application in the City of Peabody, and that is it for this review process. Earlier this year, we had a subcommittee of the planning board members that worked and voted and came up with this application fee schedule. Mr. Chairman read $500 base fee for all site plan applications. Any application that is over 5,000 square feet of new building envelope that's proposed would be $50 per 1,000 square feet over it. So from 5,001 to 6,000 feet, it's $550. 6,001 to 7,000 feet, $600. So that's the fee schedule we came up with. The only recommendation that I would make this evening that I wanted to see if the board would also agree to or not is in the zoning. These will be the new section, so there will be this new section 12.18 fee schedule now as part of section 12 site plan application. I would recommend that the board maybe vote to recommend that the City Council eliminate the fee schedule table example at the bottom. My recommendation would rather be that that fee recommendation table or fee schedule table be added to the site plan application itself rather than be in the zoning ordinance. If we ever change the zoning ordinance again, or the site plan application fee again, you would then have to go and change that whole section with the examples as well. So my one recommendation would be that the fee schedule table, which we had in there kind of as an example for what you would have to pay, just be added to the site plan application itself rather than in the actual zoning.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none.
I had a comment.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me. Thank you, Tom. Through the chair. I would be okay with the elimination of that table Because I think what you're saying is that if those numbers ever needed to be changed, you wouldn't have to go back into zoning. We could just handle it here? Is that?
No, you would still, so the zoning, you would still have to go change the zoning. It'd be just one less piece of zoning that you would have to change.
Well, I thought we liked the table then, that because it broke things down and it set up a system. And I also thought that when we talked about the building envelope, somewhere in the definitions is that we're not talking about floor area, we're talking about the foundation footprint. Is that correct? Is that somewhere in the definitions? Because it's not here. Tom didn't read that.
Proposed building envelope rather than the proposed building. So that envelope, I do not believe envelope is actually defined within our zoning ordinance, but in this case it is the, first floor foundation of the building, not 6 floors counting all of that. It is the actual envelope of the building.
So I had the same question. I mean, when an applicant comes and he applies for this, and he reads, well, it's 5,000 square feet, and above that, it's another $500 based on, it's an additional $50 based on the building envelope. And I'm just wondering if the applicant will be confused by that terminology rather than saying by the building foundation or building, you know what I mean? And it's just one story. I'm reiterating what he said, but for me, I think that an applicant coming forward, when they read that, they say a building envelope, well, the first thing they're going to say is, well, does that mean it's every floor? Does that include, is there a different word you can use besides envelope? Can it say, I don't know if you can say foundation, because some of the building might not be on a foundation. Who knows if it's part of a porch or whatever.
So to that point, what we can do is, as mentioned, that the site plan application itself, like I said, remove the fee schedule table from the zoning language, but then add that fee schedule table to the application, because people are filing the application, they're not, they're reading it in front of them. And then within the application where it's going to state fee schedule, is this amount of money, it could have then underneath definition envelope is building, a foundation or something like that, which I believe could be, and I can run this by our city solicitor as well, but I believe that information could just be provided within the site plan application itself.
Dr. Otto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have words in the definition section of the ordinance that we could use so that people are clear? Do we define footprint, for example?
I can review that to make sure that there might be something more applicable than envelope.
Because I think, why introduce a term that's not defined elsewhere in the ordinance? That seems like not really a great way to write the language.
Attorney Avanitis?
Through the chair, I don't know much about anything else, but I do know about writing statutes and things of that nature. And if it's going to be interpreted, if it doesn't have its own definition built in, the word will be interpreted according to its plain and ordinary meaning. And the word envelope has a lot of meanings. Building envelope may have a distinct meaning out there. I don't know if it does. But if it doesn't, there's enough ambiguity in the way it's drafted that it ought to be made more clear by defining it in the ordinance. I would do it in the ordinance, in the definition section. Because the word envelope is in the amendment that we're talking about tonight.
Any other questions from the board? Yes.
Well, if we're changing this document anyway, and taking out the table changes the document, right? Because it's all made, right? So then I think you could just add some clarification on that. And the thing is that, so the ambiguity, like you mentioned, Peter, the reason we did this is because a 3-story building or a 4-story building that's, say, 4,000 square feet per floor, and it's 4 stories, and someone misinterprets it at 16,000, the proponent of that shouldn't misinterpret it to pay more, right? And I don't think he would, unless he's not very intelligent. But I think you could easily put something in here in the wording of the footprint that just refers to the foundation or the footprint, to the footprint on the ground.
Which I believe you could just add in to the site plan application itself, so that, because the zoning is written, that we have section 12, but you are filing the site plan application to the planning board, which is the application that goes on all site plans. So within there, where it says, checklist fee, it would then have check $500, and then it would say fee schedule, or it would say fee schedule. I'd have to write this out, but $500 base fee, and then 5,000 to 6, or 5,001 to 6,000, 500 plus 50, and then underneath you could have envelope as defined, as building footprint.
Okay. Thank you.
We would then clarify that the envelope being spoken about is the building footprint.
Okay, thanks.
Dr. Otto?
In the zoning ordinance, we do have an expression called lot coverage, which is the area of a lot covered by a building or buildings, including all accessory structures and roof overhangs, expressed as a percentage of the total lot area. Does lot coverage help you?
I'm not going to have it in front of me, the zoning definition, but lot coverage includes, it's just buildings.
Yes.
Then I think if the planning board is comfortable with changing envelope to lot coverage, I think that would suffice.
I do.
I don't follow how lot coverage, I may be missing something, equates with either footprint or building envelope. Lot coverage to me means what part of the lot is covered by the building. And
And that's what we want. So if it's, whether you're building a 4,000 square foot, 1-story building, or a four is no good because it's netted in the 5,000. A 7,000 square foot, 1-floor building, or a 28,000 square foot, 4-story building, the fee is the same.
right, but we're really talking about a footprint.
Correct.
So why not use the word?
Well, because I think Dr. Otto found in the definitions section something about lot coverage, and it's already in there.
I rescind my suggestion because it's expressed as a percentage of the total lot area, as Attorney Arvanites points out.
Footprint it is.
So we can change, if the board wishes to vote, we could then change the word envelope to footprint if they so choose.
And to that point, that works if the word footprint is defined in the ordinance. That's my initial point.
I'd have to look it up to see.
That's two different things. Lot coverage and footprint, at least to me, are two different things. Is the term footprint used, not defined, but used elsewhere in the zoning ordinance?
I'd have to look through it to see that.
Through the chair, I think Attorney Kelty would like to be recognized.
I think just under this that the chair would have to ask if there's people for or against.
Ron Kelty, 84 Ellsworth Road in Peabody, Mass. Why do we set forth the schedule in our actual zoning ordinance? I mean, in 2 years, we may think we need more money. Why don't we say in the zoning ordinance, referencing a fee schedule in the planning department, building department, with the application, et cetera, and then as you make these changes, you don't have to alter the zoning ordinance. And you can make them as frequently as you like by changing your application or wherever it is you're going to have that fee schedule. But take it out of the zoning. I don't think there's anything else that we suggest. There are variances and the like, but fee schedules are all unrelated to the actual zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, any other further questions from the board? Hearing none, I will accept a motion.
Time out here. I myself would prefer the word building footprint instead of envelope. I think that
To remove it off of that and put it in
we could go that way. We could do away with envelope and insert building footprint. I'm talking. Oh, I'm sorry. I can hear everything through this, great. And I was suggesting we do away with envelope totally and just use the word or term building footprint. That's,
and remove it from the zoning ordinance.
and we'll push that over. All right.
To the application.
So just to clarify what's happening here, if you vote to remove this from the zoning ordinance, we're now voting to kind of change everything that was written here this evening.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think we're suggesting that. I think all we're suggesting, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, John, is that just on this document that the chairman just read into the record, here, change the word envelope to footprint, and remove the table and put it where you desire.
Again, I don't think that solves the problem of whatever the word is, how it's defined. Because footprint's not defined in the zoning ordinance, I'm gathering that. So like any other law, a zoning ordinance, if it uses a word, if the word can't be interpreted by using Webster's dictionary, then it has to be defined in the document. It's that simple.
Excuse me, Dr. Otto.
So it comes down to a definition.
In what you read, did it mention the building lot coverage?
I'm sorry, I can look for
Lot coverage of the building?
Lot coverage is a percentage of the total area of the lot, which is why it doesn't really work, because we are actually looking not for a percentage of coverage, but the total square footage of the alleged footprint. Sorry. Lot coverage is measured as a percentage of total lot area, and we're actually looking for the square footage of the building itself, not the percentage of lot area it covers. So lot coverage, I think, is a dead end for us here this evening. I will say that building footprint appears 3 times in the zoning ordinance, even though it's not defined. So it seems like maybe that is headed at least in the right direction. Not in the definitions,
Never go to city council next week.
yes.
I would just say that must, you could then infer that there's an accepted meaning of footprint when it comes to talking about buildings on lots.
So,
And I'd be okay with that too, but envelope, I'm not so sure if there's an accepted meaning of that, then that's okay too, but I don't know whether there is or not.
so the first thing that comes up on Google for building footprint is this, and it's very short and very concise. Provides the outline of a building drawn along the exterior walls with a description of the exact area, shape, and location of the foundation. Pretty clear and unambiguous, I think. And used 4 times in the current zoning.
Again, at this time, I'll accept a motion.
Just to clarify, this is just a recommendation to the city council, so this letter will be written to the city council. This will then be presented to the city council at their June 8th meeting next week to present to the subcommittee, which will then present to the full committee, council.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board recommend to the city council that the amendment as proposed be adopted with the exception of one, changing the word envelope to footprint, and two, taking the fee schedule and removing it from the amended section of the ordinance and just making it a part of the site plan application.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
This time, I'd like to end the public hearing and continue on with the city planning board meeting. First order is Section A, approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the minutes of the planning board meeting of May 18th.
Second.
Second, Dr. Otto. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. A&Rs and land court, none. Site building permit, plan review continued, 1 Newbury Street.
Mr.
Going to receive a late ad.
Yep.
You're going to receive a late ad?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to receive a late communication from Stoley Engineering, dated, no date. Well, it was received June 1st, 2023. It is dated June 1st, 2023. And it looks like they're asking for an extension of time to act until the June 15th planning board meeting. Move to receive and grant said extension.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Secondly, Mr. Chairman, in regards to the same property, 1 Newbury Street, we have a memo from Bob Langley, Public Services, rather long memo. And it discusses items reviewed by the peer review contractors. 205, 305, 305.
Excuse me, do we have that document, or is that a late ad?
It's a late ad.
Oh, thank you.
So move to receive.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Set.
Just to clarify, that late ad from Mr. Langley is the third-party review documents that have been received from the proposed coffee shop over on Newbury Street. So those third-party reviews have come back. Mr. Langley is reviewing them, as well as Solely Engineer, the applicant. I believe that Mr. Langley is hopefully going to meet with them next week to discuss, and that we should have a memo to the board by your next meeting.
Zero Prospect Street, continued from 5/18/2023. Anything on that?
Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, the applicant for 0 Prospect Street, which is the proposed hotel over at the North Shore Mall, had asked, because they figured with the third-party reviews they would not have anything back by this meeting. They had asked to continue it out, I believe, to June 20th, but it puts them on the next planning board meeting.
D, Section D, appointments, none. Subdivision board action. Letter from attorney John Kelty dated May 16th, 2023, regarding Renona Woods. I believe that's to remove the covenant. Which is in your packet.
I have the document, and I have no problem removing the covenant. Attorney Kelty is here. I don't know if he wants to speak on this or not.
Just before Attorney Kelsey speaks, I'm sure many of you are probably more familiar with this property than I am, as you voted for this before I even started working here. But this is the area that is now being proposed as a comprehensive permit under Trammell Crow. It is over off of Route 1, right, as mentioned, on Winona Street. The board voted, I believe, 2 years ago or so to subdivide some of the land up there, and not subdivide, but there's a few A&Rs that happened up there with some of the lots, but this is the property in the area of where that comprehensive permit is being proposed.
Thank you. Yes, and my cover letter indicated that your covenant was recorded in Book 35961. It was based on a subdivision approved on March 1, 2007. Its life has expired. The life of the covenant that's on record has expired. You actually released a bond like months and months ago that was being held, and now we're in a position where we're anticipating what might come up in terms of the sale by the current owners to Trammell Crow, and there is this covenant. I believe the expiry dates speak for themselves, and it's not really an impediment on title. However, we're anticipating that someone along the way is going to nitpick and suggest that this should be technically released. So, attorney from Nutter McClendon, co-counsel with me on this matter, the 40B, we're anticipating that this may come up, so we're asking for you to execute the release so that we can record it and we won't hear from anybody about it.
You need this release form signed?
I got it, okay.
You want
Mr.
2 copies? Could you use your copy too?
We could.
Sorry, I'll sign
Well,
it.
no, because I believe Jack is going to take our copy that you'll sign here tonight, he'll record it, and then you'll scan us a copy of the recorded one, so. But I believe before the board starts signing it, they should
It's got to
probably
be notarized.
vote to,
Right.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the release of covenant on a subdivision known as Winona Woods. Release and execute the document.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
So this does need to be notarized.
Peter, are you a notary?
Just about to sign it.
That's what I was going to say. If you're my notary, do you not sign?
Okay, I won't sign it, if I can notarize it. I remember the board, it's the board's act. If you interpret it as an act of the board, I'm a member of the board. You're okay with it?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
Through the chair, could I ask the counselor a question? You.
Mr. Chairman, should the alternate sign? He has a question. Should he sign as?
So there was a mention of of some A&R to cut out some section. That
Those
had to
were
do
all
with
the-
pollution?
Though, all of the A&Rs were with respect to the non-subdivision lots, the lots that were in front and still are in front.
Wasn't part of this cut away because of the pollution plume?
Part of the reason, that's correct.
Okay.
And,
So-
but the only area of pollutants on the old subdivision are two tiny little lots at the very beginning that aren't going to be bought by Trammell Crow. And they are not, they're polluted only to the extent that there's a plume that exits land right behind the billiard parlor and then heads northerly, northwesterly, and cuts off the corner in Trammell Crow because of the residential nature of the project. They're not going to buy these little, like, 2,300 square foot lots. But none of the lots that showed on the subdivision as buildable lots, they're all going to be incorporated into the plan that is and was Trammell Crow's approved plan.
Right. So I would say that probably everybody on every city board in the city of Peabody would like nothing better to see that entire site cleaned up. And I know there's something else in the works for another big segment of a lot, but then there's this other segment that's South Pike.
That's the ownership, and yeah, there are people looking at the billiard parlor itself.
Good.
And that would,
Wonderful.
we're hopeful that'll happen.
That's a stain on this community that's gone on for a decade. And every little thing that cleans it up is going to help everybody. Thank you.
To Jack, do you want this stamped? If so, I don't have a stamp with me. I can arrange with you to get it to you tomorrow, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. There's no rush.
You going to be in your office tomorrow?
I will.
I'll give you a call.
Under correspondence, there are notices in there that next meeting, we will be reholding the public hearing June 15, 2023, that was sent to the city council and returned to us. City council, none. Other matters properly before the board.
I will say in the part about city council, we did receive a few late ads from the city council this week. It was just a notice. I wanted to make aware that the board, 190 Rear Newberry Street, did receive their special permit application approval at their last meeting, so they will be moving forward with that project. We also received some regional notices. I've reviewed them from Danvers and Middleton. Nothing really of note for the city. I do have them if anybody would like to review them. But at the last meeting, we had brought forth the comprehensive permit application for 41 Newberry Street. The board at that time had mentioned that due to lack of board members there, to move it to the next meeting so that they could review and then provide, if they so choose, a letter of recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So it's back on your application, or it's back on your agenda this evening if the board wishes to write a letter or provide any recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I took a look at the plans, and I noticed that the units that are closest to the street are 12 feet away from Route 1. And I just wanted to observe my own opinion that when we are allowing people to live 12 feet from a major highway through the city, I think we are not doing the best for housing. I understand there is a tremendous need for housing across the Commonwealth, but it seems a sad example to put it there. I also noted, and perhaps other board members can chime in, that in some of the 3-bedroom units, the bedrooms don't have windows. They're on an interior hallway, and I thought that was not allowed under Mass Building Code. So obviously the plans are going to have to change if that is the case. I thought it was excellent that they consolidate the driveway to the apartment building with the Spring Hill Suites that's behind. That will help, I think, access in and out of the properties. And finally, I wanted to note that the landscaping is minimal, and it is not a very happy thought to think of 60 families living in a place where there literally is no outdoor space for them to enjoy. Thank
Just
you.
to clarify with that, that question was brought up at the, we had a meeting internally with the applicant, or with the construction review type meeting with them. And so there is on top of the building quite a bit of outdoor space that they are providing as well. Just wanted to make that note. Many of your questions, though, were brought up at this meeting to the point of that there needs to be areas for people to move. They don't know if there's going to be dogs or not that are allowed in that building, but there'll be need places for dogs to go to the bathroom. Furthermore, we discussed with them the idea of making the area a little bit more pedestrian friendly and moving, as you notice on the plan, there is a crosswalk because on Newberry Street they did just redo the crosswalk. So there's a crosswalk at the beginning entrance of the property, but we did ask them to make the crosswalk a little bit further back so that you're not crossing the road right where people are going to be pulling directly in, coming from highway speeds, so they can get across the other businesses in that area as well.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion.
Does the board wish to write a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals in regards to this?
I would suggest that from the comments a few minutes ago, maybe we should recommend that they consider reducing the scope of this whole project so it's a better fit for where it's at.
Do you mean reducing the size of the building, reducing the amount of units? Just before I write it, is that what the planning board is wishing to vote?
I don't wish it.
To Dr. Otto's point of people sleeping 12 feet from Route 1, it's kind of distasteful. And if there are bedrooms with no windows, I do believe that is a violation of code. So they might be trying to shoehorn so much into that site that they've kind of lost vision of the mission.
I will just make it known as well that I believe it's residential on the first floor, or not residential on the first floor. It is a commercial use on the first floor, and the building is lifted up slightly as well. So there is, I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe there's like raised area, first floor, commercial, then housing, residential starts up above that. Would the planning board feel more comfortable with a letter of recommendation that the applicant make in their best efforts a ability, or could just recommend that the zoning board of appeals condition the applicant to provide more open space and landscape buffering on the Route 1 side?
I would agree with that.
Unfortunately, cannot make the motion. Someone's going to have to make that.
I make a motion that through the chairman, we write a letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals for this Chapter 40B comprehensive permit, that we suggest more open space available to the residents and install a a larger landscape buffer on the westerly side of the building, which is Route 1, along Route 1.
Second.
Just to clarify, that 12 feet that you were looking at, Dr. Otto, that's the driveway length, and then there is a buffered zone between that as well. So that's it's wider than 12 feet. The exact distance, so that 12 feet right there is this entrance to around back and then into, I believe there's a parking area underneath it. I'm trying to figure out the exact distance, but there is then a grass buffer zone between that 12 feet to the highway. And there is proposed plantings to take place along that area as well.
I'm looking at sheet C4, which shows a front setback of 12 feet.
So that 12 feet goes to that black line right there. But then, as you can notice, you see that there's the crosswalk right next to it.
Right.
That leads to another pathway that then leads to the crosswalk that's currently existing on Route 1.
So you're saying this applicant is going to landscape in the Commonwealth's right-of-way?
So that already exists. There's already a buffered grass area that exists right there.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'll accept the motion.
Can I just make a comment?
Yep.
I'm just wondering what the rest of the board thinks about asking Mr. DiBiase to, at his convenience in the, the next 2 or 3 meetings, if he would just show up and give us an update on the progress of the subdivision that he's doing at the end of Ralph Road and Pearl Street. I haven't heard anything negative about it, but I know we made the gentleman from Birch Hill Estates come before us a couple of times, and just wondering what you guys think about that. I'm either way. I'm 50-50.
No, I myself wouldn't mind an update from the developer myself, so. And that might even be in his conditions, that he has to keep us updated.
Drew, could you look into that approval and just see if it's in there? And I wouldn't want to nail him down to a specific night that he had to be here, but if he just let us know when it's convenient and just give us a 10-minute update on how things are going up there. Thanks.
I can write a letter to the applicant and ask him to come.
Mr. Chairman, if there is no other business, I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Again, thank you all. I hope you all have a pleasant weekend, although it's going to be cold.